All right, and we're back. And we're back. Greg, you're asking a good question. The questions, I don't think they went away because I took a screenshot. So let's get right back into it. I took a picture. All right, so let us see where we're at. I saw some good questions, and so I think they did not go away. So let's get back into it, my friends. The question that I saw that I wanted to grab here, LR asked a great question. And LR, I know you might not be here yet, but I am going to answer your question because I'll talk about it more as well, even if you're not quite back yet. LR asked the Blues Guide book. The Blues Guide book will be available independent of the Christmas book. Right now, the Blues Guide, which I'll be telling you more about in a minute. Right now, the Blues Guide is kind of like a fun little marketing thing. I mean, it's a great book, but I thought I'd throw it out there in a way to help you all. Encourage you to get that Christmas book. And hey, you get the Christmas book, learn those Christmas tunes, and then you get the Blues Guide. But yes, it will be available after Christmas. It will be available as a standalone thing. And hey, you know what? Maybe I'll even make it available before Christmas because a bunch of people have been asking me about that. So yeah, we'll figure it out. At the moment, though, the number one way to get the Blues Guide is to purchase the Christmas book. By the way, these are all ebooks. You guys, you've heard me say this a million times. Almost everything I've put out there, those books you see behind me there, almost all of them are electronic books, which you get in your inbox immediately as a PDF, with one exception of the Hal Leonard book, which I will ship out to you. It's a hard copy. So yeah, so stay tuned for more. During this live show, I'll tell you more about the Blues Guide, my new Blues Guide book. Okay, so another question I saw here. I think Chaz, I saw your question, and Scott is making a good point. Scott Rhodes is making a good point. We talked a moment ago about different guitar tuners responding differently to the same guitar. And they can't both be right. If they're not agreeing with each other, And Scott made a good point. He said, well, isn't that why bands tune to each other and they don't just trust their tuners? Yep, that's a wise thing. I mean, you have to start somewhere, right? So I can picture a band tuning up their instruments to each other. I mean, to their electronic tuners, their snarks and whatever they got clipped onto their headstock right there. I've got this cute little D'Addario product clipped onto my guitar here. But then, whether it's in the heat of the moment or, during an actual show, I can imagine a musician tweaking a string tighter or looser to make it sound perfect. I'm getting this Martin guitar tuned up for today. There we go. So yeah, whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes. Joey, hello. Pooba John has a question. Pooba John will get to your question in a minute. Beginner guitar lessons, welcome back. Gregory, I see your question. Okay. LRO, got some good questions coming in. I'm just scrolling. These are some questions that came in just a little bit earlier. Chaz asked, with all these Black Friday sales at Sweetwater, for example, can you explain pickups and humbuckers in order to possibly buy a new guitar? Yeah, well, it's a great question. It's a big question. It's a big question. Speaking of Sweetwater, did I have this set here? No, but I'm going to make this. I'm going to get this set up for us. Here we go. Okay. I need this. Which pickup is right for you? Which guitar is right for you? It's a big question. And okay, there we go. I'm going to put this in the chat here. Okay. There you go. No matter whether you love the advice I give or it helps you a little bit or a lot, should you guys be shopping at Sweetwater anyways, go ahead and use that link that I just put in the chat. That's called an affiliate link. And whether you're buying pickups or other stuff, you get the same low price. But when you use that affiliate link, Sweetwater donates a little bit of their proceeds back to this YouTube channel to support what we are all doing here. So thank you. Okay, so the question, and I want to make sure, yeah, Chaz. Chaz's question about pickups. In general, we're talking about electric guitar, right? So in general, we have humbucker pickups like you might see in a Gibson Les Paul, single coil pickups that you might see in Fender Stratocaster, Fender Telecaster, and then P90 pickups. P90s are relatively large, like a humbucker, but you might see a P90, say in a cool, I don't know, like a Gibson SG, you might see a P90 pickup. And they each produce distinctive sounds, and some are going to appeal to you more than others in terms of the overall tone of a humbucker and a P90 and a single coil. How are you supposed to tell the difference? And you can tell the difference. Every once in a while, a student will say to me, I'm a beginner, I'm sure I wouldn't know the difference, which I understand the humility of that. But no, you can tell the difference, especially if you are guided, and the question is, which one do you like the best, but you can tell the difference. Okay. There are a few ways to shop, and shop meaning decide what you like the best, right? It starts with all the music you've heard in your life. Your favorite guitar players. It's a little bit different than your favorite band, your favorite singer. I'm talking about specifically, the tones that your favorite guitar players get. The approach then is to find out what your favorite guitar players use and do that, and then you're all set. But it's not that simple. My favorite guitar players use lots of different guitars and pickups, and the more favorite guitar players you have, the harder it is to say, well, this is what I want right there. But the premise here is that you want to pick one and get started, right? So what do you do? Sadly, price is not an issue. It's not like, well, humbuckers cost $10,000, and so most of us aren't going to get them. It's not. There's sometimes budget is a huge factor, and it's just not the case. You can get great guitars at reasonable prices with the combination I just described, the single coils or P90s or humbuckers. I'm going to generalize really broadly here. Humbuckers, thicker, heavier sound. Single coils, thin, biting, trebly kind of sound. P90s right in the middle, And then how about a guitar that has both? How about a guitar that has a single coil and a humbucker? Personally, I think that's an awesome thing. But, one of the factors that you can't avoid is by the time the consumer hears the music, that's been recorded, the sound has been so processed. You could hear a single coil guitar like a Fender Stratocaster where so much attention has been placed, so much attention has been given to making that guitar sound a certain way in the recording studio on the final recording that you might say that doesn't have that thin biting sound that Jonathan talked about, and vice versa. Someone could be playing a Gibson Les Paul, but the tone has been manipulated in a way that it does have this great biting, thin, and I mean thin in a good way, kind of sound. And you might say, but that's not how he described a humbucker. He said a humbucker was a thick, heavy sound. Yeah. So that muddies the waters, so to speak. So how are you supposed to know what you like and what you don't like? In a perfect world, you would, make up your mind, get that guitar or a guitar with those pickups, and then go home and try it for a week and see what you think, see what you think. The good news is there's no right or wrong. It's all a matter of your taste. It really is. And in terms of shopping for guitars, there's so many other options. Simply the weight of a Gibson Les Paul and the neck shape of a Gibson Les Paul, they don't appeal to me. I don't want a heavy guitar like that, and the neck doesn't feel right. So I'm never going to get a Gibson Les Paul anyways. Doesn't mean I don't like the sound of a humbucker. But there are other factors come into play. So, so those are some of my thoughts, Chaz, about shopping for pickups as a like an aftermarket pickup to put in whatever guitar you have, or just more generally, how do you find the guitar that's right for you? There's always going to be trial and error, always, no matter what any expert says. You should expect a certain amount of trial and error, meaning take it home for a week and see if you like it. What's the return policy, and just know that, we're all so lucky to have pretty amazing instruments starting at pretty low prices, compared to, what all of our favorite bands started off with, back in the 50s and 60s, what was affordable to young people back then. Yeah, we're super lucky. Okay, so I'm reviewing a couple of older questions that came in. Chuck Snyder says, Jonathan, what is your favorite Christmas song? I'll stick by my answer from a few weeks ago. It is 100% Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, because the guitar fills in that song are so tasty. I never get tired of hearing Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. Oh, that reminds me. Last time someone asked me this, I meant to tell a story that relates to Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. And I will tell it in 1 second. But more broadly, I love all the melodies that are found in all. I mean, so many of the classic, the older, Christmas songs. I mean, as far back as you can go. I'm not talking about songs from the 80s or 70s. I'm talking about the old classic Christmas tunes. I love all those melodies. Okay, so what's the joke? Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. Was it Brenda Lee who has the popular version of Rockin' on the Christmas Tree? I think so. So once upon a time, there was a concert promoter who was about to get up on stage and introduce the act. And the only problem, there was a big crowd, waiting to hear, they got their tickets and ready to hear the performer that night. He gets up on stage and he couldn't remember whether the performer he was about to announce was Peggy Lee or Brenda Lee. And he's panicking. He's like, oh my God, he's frozen in front of the microphone. Who was it? Who's he supposed to announce? Ladies and gentlemen, the words are coming out of his mouth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. I know you're very excited, and the crowd's going crazy. And he can't remember, is it Peggy Lee or Brenda Lee? And so he had the common sense to say, you know her name. Let me hear you say it. And that's how you solve that problem. I love that story so much. Okay, folks, last time I saw you, a week ago Saturday, it took us 3 tries to make it through one live stream. I was disappointed. I'm not proud of that. But should this segment, we're on number 2 now, should something go wrong with this one, don't worry, we'll start a new live stream, and the 3rd time's the charm. And hopefully that won't even come to that. Okay. Now, there was one more question that I think from previously, and then I'll get on to other ones. Yes, a pressing question that Live to Fly mentioned, which is, where is Charlie Beagle? Charlie, is Charlie in the chat? I do not see Charlie in the chat. So, okay. If I missed any of your questions previously from the previous segment, feel free to add those in. Pooba John is asking, what model of guitar am I using today? It is my good old Martin guitar. Martin D16. It's like a D18 with a few features. Mahogany back and sides. It was made in 1990. Acoustic guitars sound better as they get older, especially, as you play them more and more as they get older. And if you start with a great guitar, whatever you can afford, especially something with solid wood, laminate guitars are less expensive. They don't warm up over the years. Solid wood guitars do. Sometimes you'll see a guitar where the top of the guitar, which is the face of the guitar, is described as solid, but the back and sides might not be solid wood. It's okay, that keeps the price down. It'll still change as the guitar matures, so to speak. But ideally, you save up a little bit longer and you get something with a solid top, solid back, and solid sides. Typically in marketing lingo, if the whole guitar is solid, they go out of their way to tell you all solid. Solid top, solid back, solid sides. If they don't use that word solid 3 times, then probably some component is not solid wood. Doesn't mean it sounds bad. Doesn't mean you shouldn't get it. But what I wish for all of you is at some point in your career, an acoustic guitar that is completely made of solid wood, because they sound so great. And the more you play them, the better they sound. It's not cheap. I know it's not cheap, but that's what I wish for all of you. If Santa Claus asked me, that's what I would tell Santa Claus. Okay, I'm scrolling down here. Gregory says, "Can you speak about picks?" Gregory says, "I recently changed from a nylon pick to a Dunlop sculpted prime tone and noticed a very big difference." Sure, picks make a huge difference. Huge difference. I think the conventional wisdom is that the thinner the pick is, the more you actually hear the sound of the pick on the strings. I'm talking about paper thin picks, or what, like a Fender thin pick that actually says the word thin on there. Let's say something, if you're going by decimal points, like a point, say 0.6 or thinner, 0.6 or less, right? And then as you get into 0.7, 0.8 in general, that's what I would call a medium thickness in general. So the thin ones, you hear the pick more, you just do. The thicker the pick is, the more you hear the string itself. Now, I'm not saying good or bad, although I truly hate thin picks passionately, but that doesn't mean that they're not right for somebody. Jimmy Vaughn, for some reason, I don't know why I remember this. Jimmy Vaughn, I read some interview where he mentioned that he uses thin picks. Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother, Jimmy Vaughn. So there you go. What do I know? Jimmy Vaughn has a perfectly good career without taking any pick advice from me. In general, the players that I know and I'm aware of, everybody uses a relatively thick pick, meaning like a Fender medium or thicker. So mine, I like a 1 millimeter pick. Anyways, that's the conventional wisdom. The thinner the pick, the more you hear it when you strum, and the thicker, the less you hear it. Is that a deciding factor for people? To me, that's not it. It's the way the pick responds or doesn't respond to to twang in the string. I don't want the pick to bend excessively before I actually get some sound to come out. I want the pick to make the string. I want the pick to win the battle. As soon as the pick touches the string, I want to hear some sound. At least that's how I think of it. But yes, and I encourage you all to try a whole bunch of picks. I use these little Dunlop, these little cute little red picks. They used to call them little stubbies. I think now they just call it stubby. Yeah, a stubby 1.0 millimeter pick. I don't recommend it. I don't, because I want you to find the ones that work for you. Ideally, a perfect world, you walk into a guitar store and they have all little individual picks. Dunlop, for one, makes a cute little variety pack. I think it's a few bucks, but they put in about a dozen picks, and that's a great idea. It's a great idea. If I could throw that in your Christmas stocking, I would. Great to try lots and lots of picks. And when you find the one that you think you like the best, buy a whole bunch of them. I swear they'll disappear if you're not careful, they'll disappear. LR is asking a question here. Any advice for practicing and warm up for an older novice whose thumbs have arthritis? I simply can't play for an hour. That's tough. That's tough. I wish I had medical training. I wish I went to medical school and studied, the anatomy of the hand. I wish I knew more about all this stuff. Knowing me, I wouldn't pursue medicine. I'd still do the same job, but I'd be able to answer your question so much better, because we're getting into some medical stuff here, which is above my pay grade. I can say that what I would 100% recommend is, washing your hands with warm water before you play. A lot of self-massage, especially on your fretting hand. I mean, really lay into it. Would get that blood flowing. There's a device that one of my students swears by, which is a laser that he zaps his hands with. I know some of you think you just heard me wrong. You did not hear me wrong. He got it on Amazon. He showed it to me. It's a little laser. He holds a laser with one hand. He zaps his fretting hand with it, and he finds it extremely therapeutic. And yeah, I've seen him. I've definitely seen his left hand. He's getting better. Without a doubt, he's getting better at the guitar. He's not a young guy, and he's getting better at the guitar. I know he's practicing a ton. He plays every day. He practices a ton. But his hands were in pretty rough shape, just from age, and you know how he used his hands for 70 years, you know, give or take. So I'm not saying the laser cures everything, but I had never heard of that as a therapeutic thing. And hey, it works for him. I don't know much more about it, but if he got it from Amazon, or he showed me a link from Amazon. So yeah, what can you say? So LR, also I've heard of people who break up their practicing into 20-minute segments during the day, and they don't push themselves to go for an hour. In a perfect world, yeah, that sounds great. We don't all have that luxury. But if you do, break it up into 20-minute segments, warm up for 5, work on something for 15, you're done. You know, so those are some of my thoughts. Bruce is asking a great question. Jonathan, can you demonstrate some percussive techniques on the acoustic? Palm muting between strums, etc. Yeah, I'd be happy to. There's some people where this is their bread and butter. I mean, they get some pretty fantastic drum kind of sounds the way they beat on their poor acoustic guitars. But what I can show you is more modest kind of stuff, which is you talk about palm muting and muting between the strums. So let's talk about palm muting. It's not what I would call a percussive sound, but it changes the guitar into a more specific, controlled kind of sound. I'm doing officially I'm doing an E power chord. It might look like my index finger is squeezing on lots of strings. All my pressure is on the 5th string, the A string, 2nd fret. But I'm intentionally relaxing my index finger so that my index finger is touching the remaining skinny strings, and they're dampened out like that. Okay. That's not the point. The point is what my picking hand is doing, where I'm letting the flesh, the squishy part on the side, some people call it the heel or the butt of my right hand, is touching the 2 fat strings even while I strum. So the first thing I'm doing, I'm resting that squishy part. I'm resting that on my strings. Doesn't really matter where you put your hand. I'm still basically right in between the sound hole and the bridge. But the idea, though, is that you put your hand there first, get comfortable because you're not going anywhere, and then I'm strumming the 2 fat strings. So there's an example of palm muting. I have seen people struggle with this, and be patient. You'll get it. It's as simple as I'm making it look. You let pretend you don't want to wake up someone in your house. You want to play the guitar. You don't want to wake them up. What would you do? You would touch the strings, right? And then you'd start the strumming. I'm doing all downstrokes on the 2 fat strings. Last thing about palm muting, you have to decide for yourself how much pressure. You can put down very little pressure with that heel of your hand and get a little twangy. You hear a little music coming through, right? Or you can put down more pressure, and now the music really has disappeared. Now it's more of a completely percussive kind of sound. And there's a big spectrum in between. Okay, so palm muting. Now, the other one you mentioned, muting between the strums. Yeah, I'm going to stick with E minor. One thing that comes to mind is what I call a magnetic attraction. Immediately after the strum, your picking hand snaps back against the strings. I want you to think of that as there's a magnet that forces your hand after the strum, not before, not during, after the strum. it forces the heel, but also going up towards your pinky, the whole edge of your picking hand. That magnetic attraction snaps that part of your hand against the strings. In today's weekly play along, sing along, I'm gonna do some of that. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing that. So stay tuned. We'll start that up. Oh, in a few minutes. We're about at the 1 hour part. We'll start the weekly sing along, play along soon, and I'll talk. I'll be doing that. Okay, so muting between strums. Now, so far we have two things. We have palm muting, which is kind of a constant, right? The skin is constantly touching whatever strings we're playing. That's a constant thing. That's palm muting. There's the second thing, which is muting between the strums, which involves snapping back. Now, then there's the chop. The chop is, I'm going to stick with it, E minor here. The chop is, let me see. I'm always looking for a better way to describe this, but okay, the chop. My right hand is, I'm doing this in slow motion. My right hand is coming down towards the guitar. I'm going to let the skin of my right hand, basically the edge, that heel part, that squeegee part, it's going to touch the strings first, and then my pick is going to scrape across the strings. It's a two-part thing. Some of you can do this. Some of you struggle with this, and I struggle with explaining it better. So my advice is to treat it as a two-part process. And I'm watching myself in my little monitor here, and I'm gonna put out some information that might help you. Okay, step one, my right hand, I'm doing this in slow motion. My right hand is approaching the strings, and I'm gonna stop step one where the whole side of my hand, really up the pinky, the whole edge of that hand is touching the strings. That's step one. Now, I want you to do that, right? My pick is hovering up by the fat sixth string. I haven't done anything with a pick yet, okay? That's the end of step one, okay? Bang. I essentially banged on the strings of the guitar with the edge of my hand. Bang. Now, step two, it's not a typical strum where you let your hand go down by your legs. Because if you did that, you would lose that dampening effect that you did with the side of your hand, right? So step one. Now, step two, my pick is reaching towards the fat string. I'm going to think of that side of my hand as a pivot point, as a hinge. I'm still making contact with the side of my picking hand. It's still touching the strings. What do you want to call that? Rotating. It's rotating, it's pivoting. I am strumming the guitar. It's coming from the wrist. But I'm not losing contact. You cannot lose contact with the strings. Okay, I've never explained it exactly that way before. Hopefully that will help some of you, Okay, then I'm going to stop there because there is a whole world out there of people tapping with their fingers while they play. Something that I've been a drummer. I love playing the drums, and I really want to learn all sorts of guitar things. And so I was never inspired to beat on the guitar. And I mean that respectfully, because people do some pretty interesting things. But that's where I'm coming from, so I've never pursued, some pretty fantastic banging sounds people can do on their guitars. Also, I think I mentioned last time, I sort of came of age working in a guitar shop with some really beautiful instruments. And there's no way I was going to do that at any one of the instruments I aspired to buy and play, and again, no judgment, but that's why I never pursued that kind of stuff. That's part of my journey, Okay, I'm scrolling down here. Okay, Pooba John, I see your question. Pooba John says, did your Martin come set up from the factory when I got it? Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know exactly, and here's why. I was working at this music shop, and we got two almost identical, not exactly identical, but almost identical Martin D16s in stock. And I grabbed the one that had I thought a prettier grain to the wood. But they had already been hanging on the wall for a little while before I bought this guitar. My boss, this is what happens at mom and pop music stores. My boss was a Martin dealer. And any guitar that came through the door, Martin or otherwise, he would go over it pretty thoroughly and make it perfect, basically. Not every place does that. Not every online retailer does that for sure, right? So that's what you hope that you would get from a mom and pop place, especially if they want to compete with all these online places. You hope the mom and pop place does a setup that they make it perfect. You might say, yeah, but how could Martin Guitars or any well-regarded company, how could they let a guitar go out of their factory that's not perfect, right? Short answer is it is. It's not that it's not perfect. It's that well, this is my opinion. There's an understanding that the dealer is going to is going to do the final inspection. Of course, the guitar leaves being playable. Here's an example. Here's how it was always explained to me. The last thing anybody wants, anybody who's involved in the business side, is for a string to buzz against the frets. No string buzzing, because there's no way you're going to buy a guitar if you hear string buzz, right? There's no way. There's lots of other things that you might be not deal breakers. Because string buzz is a deal breaker, in general, that's the excuse or the reason or the logic for guitars to ship out of a factory with relatively high string action, higher than the lowest possible string action, with the understanding that if the customer demands, or if the mom and pop retailer takes it upon themselves out of their own initiative, that's when you address it and get the action absolutely just right. And you might say, but can't they just do that at the factory? They could. The guitar is going to be shipped. It's possible that's going to go through different climate zones. It's possible that's going to sit on a shipping dock overnight. To be fair, the guitar might ship with a perfect setup, and might show up at the retailer and be slightly less than perfect. It's possible. Don't forget, guitars think they're still alive. They have moisture. The wood has moisture. Moisture is life, right? Water is life. So the guitar doesn't know that that we have an agenda for it. The guitar still thinks it's a tree, right? So long story short, I imagine that my boss looked over this guitar, and it's possibly made very tiny little adjustments before I got it. So definitely from a mom and pop retailer, before you buy an acoustic guitar, it's perfectly reasonable to say, hey, has this guitar been set up so it's ready to go 100% perfect? Could the string action come down a little bit? Unless you love the way the string action is. All this stuff is adjustable. And I would imagine that any mom and pop retailer, they want your business. They know you can go online and maybe even save $20 or more. Who knows, So my guess is that if it's not 100% perfect, they're happy to do that because, that's how they make the sale. Now, give them a minute. They might not be able to do it for you right as you're standing there. Give them a minute to maybe have to come back the next day. Be fair about it. You get what I'm saying. Okay. Yeah, Charlie Bigo. Hey, Charlie Bigo. He's mentioned that stuff gets thrown around when it's shipped. Yeah, it's true. I'll never forget taking a Martin guitar out of a shipping box. UPS had just dropped it off. I think we let it come to room temperature, especially if it's cold, you want to let a guitar come to room temperature. But whenever the time was right to open the box, the guitar was still in tune. Whoa, that blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. There's no reason to expect that, Hey, Stephen Mannion, thank you for your super chat. That's my reminder to remind you that should you want to make a contribution to what we do here on Saturdays, you can make a super chat donation, and that's down at the bottom of your screen, that little $sign right there, whatever is in your budget. And I thank you in advance. This is our 25th, right? Our 25th super chat. Okay, how about the 25th live stream? How about one more question? And then let's get into our weekly play along. I can't wait. Chris asks, do you think a 5-year-old Yamaha could have strings higher off the fretboard than on day one? Oh yeah, totally. Excellent question. Excellent question. Yeah. In fact, I'd be amazed if the strings weren't harder to press down 5 years after the fact than on the day you bought it. But that's why I want to emphasize all this stuff is adjustable, all adjustable. In a perfect world, there would be a guitar tech in your neighborhood, in your town, and once a year, you bring the guitar by and have them go over it and bring the guitar back to factory specifications. It's not a mystery why a guitar might need adjustments. To my knowledge, it's somewhere like 150, 200 pounds of pressure from the guitar strings. I believe this is for an acoustic guitar. That's how much pressure is being put on the poor, humble bridge of the acoustic guitar, right? And that's constant pressure. While you're sleeping, there's pressure. You go to work, there's pressure. There's never not pressure unless you were to loosen the strings, you know? So there's that variable, that constant, that's something that you have to factor in. There's the fact that the wood is drying over time. The glue that's holding the guitar together is drying. I know electric guitars, it's a little bit different, but nevertheless, this stuff is happening 24/7, and over time, the guitar is not going to feel the same as when you bought it. Hey, look on the bright side. It's possible when you bought it, it wasn't set up ideally. So get it into the hands of a guitar tech. It could actually be better than day one. It could, right? Have them put some new string. Well, they're going to, anyone who does a setup, they're going to put new strings on there anyways, and that's great. You want them to do that. I recommend it. I just know that it's not always someone that's easy for you guys to get to. I know. Hey, Bruce, thank you for your super chat too. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's sing. Let us sing. The song I have for you all today is 2 chords. Good old Jambalaya. Hank Williams Sr., Jambalaya. What do you need to know about Jambalaya? Okay. By the way, when I timestamp this video, this segment I call preparation for our weekly play along. And then secondarily, of course, will come the actual sing-along, play-along. So if and when you watch this in the future, or for those of you who are watching this in the future, you can skip ahead to the play-along part. But here, I'm going to make this quick. You need a C major, you need a G7, okay? C major, G7. Get a pencil handy because I'm going to tell you what we're going to do with this C major and G7. I chose Jambalaya not only because there's only 2 chords, but because there's a repeating structure to the chord sequence that is very easy to remember. Okay, we're going to do 4 boom chicks on the C major. What is a boom chick? I'm hitting the 5th string with my pick, and then a light brush on the 4 remaining strings. That's the chick. And then I'm going to zip back with the edge of my hand to mute out that sound. See how the sound disappeared? Okay, that's a boom chick. At least for this song, I'm including that muting sound. You don't have to do that as part of the boom chick, but for this song, it's appropriate. We're going to do 4 of those on the C. It's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 boom chicks on the C. 8 boom chicks on the G7. 1. Oh, I'm going to hit the 6th string first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 on the C. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 on the C. 8 on the G7, 4 on the C. Now that's the total sequence. I want you to think of those C's as bookends, meaning when you finish the final 4 on the C, it goes back to the beginning. It's 4 more on the C, right? 4, 8, 4. Some of you have already figured out that means ultimately it's 8 on the C, and then 8 on the G, and it's G7, and 8 on the C, and 8 on the G7. It becomes a nice cycle, okay? But I still, structurally, I want you to think of it as 4 boom chicks on the C, 8 boom chicks on the G7, and a final 4 on the C. Don't worry, I'm going to take it slowly. Interestingly, C and G7 from a distance don't look too profoundly different. So I would say I just watch my left hand in the video. But I know if you're not, if you don't look too carefully, they could look almost the same. What else? For those of you who may want to solo along with us, all you need is a C major pentatonic scale because you're in the key of C. What do? You want to find a C. Which C? C with your pinky on the 6th string, the fat E string, 8th fret. That's the note C. I'll say that again. Fat string, 8th fret, pinky has to be your pinky. Why? Because we're going to do a pattern right now that goes, starting the 6th string, 5, 8, 5th string, 5, 7, 4th string, 5, 7, 3rd string, 5, 7, 2nd string, 5, 8, 5, 8. I'm going to say that one more time slowly, starting the 6th string, 5, 8. Then 5, 7, 5, 7 again, 5, 7 again, 5, 8, one last 5, 8. My nickname for that pattern is the headquarters pattern. When you apply the headquarters pattern at that location on the neck, it is a C major pentatonic scale. The perfect scale for soloing along with Jambalaya by Hank Williams. He did it in the key of C. We are going to do it in the key of C. Are you ready? Of course you are. All right, I will see you on the other side. Let's do it. Goodbye, Joe. Me gotta go. Here it comes. Goodbye, Joe. Me gotta go. Me oh my oh. Me gotta go and pull the pirogue on the bayou. Is it the sweetest one? Me oh my oh. Son of a gun, gonna have big fun on the bayou. Thibodeau, Fountain, places buzzing. Kinfolk come to see Yvonne by the dozen. Dressing style, go hog wild, me oh my oh. Son of a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. Okay, let's leave it there for a moment because we got so much more to do. Now, I went faster than I intended to go. I intended to be more like, goodbye, Joe. Me gotta go. Me oh my oh. That's what I intended to do. How about if we do it one more time, a little bit slower, okay? And for those of you who had no problem keeping up going fast, maybe you can do some of that lead guitar stuff. Okay, ready? Take 2. Slow it down. The post-Thanksgiving meal. Okay, ready? Goodbye, Joe. Me gotta go. Me oh my oh. Me gotta go and pull the pirogue on the bayou. My Yvonne, sweetest one. Me oh my oh. Son of a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. Thibodeau, Fountain, places buzzing. Kinfolk come see Yvonne by the dozen. Dressing style, go hog wild, me oh my oh. Son of a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. All right, a little bit slower, right? Okay. So 2 chords, 1 scale. Hope you had fun with that, okay? If that was easy for you, awesome. If that was slightly challenging, okay, now you got a goal, right? What any other words of wisdom I can add about that song? Only one thing. Because the boom chick strum, the whole premise is you hit a single string first. I'm on the C chord now, and then you strum. The finger you need for that single string has to be your priority. So when I'm go to change the G7 chord, you have to put your ring finger down first on the 6th string because that's what your picking hand needs first. Okay. And then when it's time to go back to the C major chord, you have to put that ring finger back on the 5th string, 3rd fret for the C major. Hey, not coincidentally, the ring finger is either going to be on the 5th string, 3rd fret, or the 6th string, 3rd fret, right? There's only 2 possible options. Make that your priority. You have to. You have to. Okay, that's my big advice. All right, thank you. Jambalaya. I love the lyrics of Jambalaya so much. I mean, when good old Leonard Cohen wrote his song, The Tower of Song, what a great song. Who did he reference? Who did he give a big shout out to? Hank Williams, right? Son of a gun will have big fun. Kinfolk come to see Yvonne by the dozen. Okay. Brian, I see your question. I'm going to scroll for a minute here. Scott, I'm glad you like Jambalaya. Excellent. Brian, I see. Okay. Home studio. Yes. Okay. Brian is asking a great question about using, doing like home recording and home kind of stuff. He says, hi, Jonathan. I'm just trying out a home studio. I purchased a Behringer microphone. I'm wondering what cables I need. I understand there's phantom power. You don't need a different cable, but you do need to activate or supply phantom power. I have a little interface. I'm plugged into it right now. I can't show you, but I'm plugged into it. It's like a little box, you know, and it has a literally a button that says 48 volts. And if I did not press that button, you guys would not hear me because the microphone that I'm using relies on phantom power. So if that's a button that you can press, perfect. The question is, how are you plugging your microphone into your computer, basically? What kind of interface are you using? If somehow there's no interface, then you either have to get an interface or use a different microphone. Say you're plugging it directly into your computer somehow. If there is an interface, then it's pretty likely it has phantom power available because that's a common thing. So, Brian, I hope that helps. But you do not need to buy a different cable, any microphone cable, as long as the microphone cable fits your microphone, obviously, and as long as it plugs into the interface, then that's okay. But there's not, to my knowledge, there's not a special microphone. Charlie, I see your Charlie, I'm gonna guess that your question is full of beans. Charlie, I'm not even gonna read your question. I'll let you all read your question. Hey, Susan. Charlie. But Charlie, for a minute, I was like, oh, what, he's using some terminology I don't understand. Yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason I don't understand, Charlie. Okay. Hey, before I forget, how are we doing? Oh, we got plenty of time. How about dumb question time? I'm going to open the floor for dumb questions, and I have a dumb question for you. So now is the moment. For those of you who have a question that you are hesitant to ask in the live chat, now is the moment. I'm going to ask my dumb question. By the way, in my notes, Scott Rhodes, you might get a kick out of this. I refer to this as my DQ. I think you're the one who introduced the term DQ, meaning dumb question. So this is my DQ for the day. You ready? Is a 12-string guitar twice as hard to play as a 6-string guitar? It's a dumb question. That's a really dumb question. But, well, is it though? Is a 12-string guitar twice as hard as a 6-string guitar? And then is a bass guitar, 4 strings, is that easier than a 6-string guitar? I mean, kind of, right? Kind of, sort of. Okay, so this is my dumb question. What a dumb question. But there you have it. So is a 12-string twice as hard to play as a 6-string guitar? No. Is it tricky? Yes. Yes. Some of you may not be aware that a 12-string guitar, which believe me, I wish I had one because they're fun. They sound amazing, and it opens up some interesting discussions. 12-string guitars have what they call courses, and a course just means 2 strings extremely close to each other, so that when your fretting hand goes to press 1 string, it can't help but to press down on 2 strings at the same time. And just so you know, a mandolin is the same way, and a lot of other instruments out there. But guitar and mandolin are the ones that we see most often in our culture. So courses. So you could say a 12-string guitar has 6 courses, and each course is made up of 2 strings. So is it twice as hard to play as a 6-string guitar? No, but it feels weird when you go to press 1 string and you feel this kind of thick combination of 2 strings instead. It takes a little getting used to, for sure. And same thing with picking. Picking it just feels different on a 12-string guitar. Is it twice as hard? Oh, but it takes a little getting used to, for sure. Maintaining a 12-string guitar, keeping it in tip-top shape, yes, that is harder than a 6-string guitar. Again, all that pressure pulling. Now it's essentially twice as much pressure. I don't know if that's scientifically accurate, but it's a lot more pressure pulling at the poor wooden bridge than on a 6-string guitar. So in that sense, 12-string guitar is that'll take up more of your, more of your TLC, more of your attention, because you gotta, if you're gonna buy a 12-string guitar, you gotta play it, you gotta keep your eye on it, you gotta make sure nothing funky goes on with it. And as soon as something gets weird with a 12-string guitar, you got to bring it right away to get looked at. So that's my dumb question. My dumb question of the day. Okay. Jerry Stillwell is asking a great dumb question. Jerry Stillwell says, where can you get some left-handed guitar strings? If anybody knows the answer, please put it in the chat. Left-handed guitar strings. I know typically they have them in a store right next to the lefty picks. They're right, usually side by side. They're right there. And the lefty guitar straps, they're all right. The special section. That's the Scott Rhodes says, I find the 12-string harder to pick. Oh, Scott owns one, right? Yeah. He finds it harder to pick, but not really harder to strum. Okay, so if you're just strumming big broad strokes, it's about the same deal. But getting in the in-between, getting that individual notes, so to speak, you find those harder. Yep. And tuning almost always stresses me out, though. He says, it's a yep. So 12-string. So now is the time. Should you have any dumb questions, now is the time. Now, while you are formulating your dumb questions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick demo on the Christmas book. And I'm going to keep it quick because some of you have heard this before, but trust me, I'm not going to be mentioning any of this stuff in January, So I figured I'd give you a quick demo as to what the point of this is. Is this the only Christmas guitar book in the world? No. It's a one of a kind, though, because for the low, low price, you get songs presented 3 ways. So what am I going to do? I think I've got Silent Night on my mind, and so I'm going to use Silent Night as an example. Okay. So depending on where you're at, you may be the kind of player who just wants to play the melody of Silent Night. And I'm going to hold this up to the screen, okay? I know you can't see it too well. I know. But if you could see it super well, what you'd see is the melody written out in tab, just one note at a time, no chords, no funny business, just one note at a time. It's a 1-page song. The standard notation, what I call the piano music, is up above, but you don't really need that for anything except the timing. And chances are, if you know the song Silent Night, you don't need me to walk you through the timing. Okay. So step 1, Silent Night as a melody. Pretty easy, right? Okay. Now, some of you, that's where you're at. You aren't super experienced on the guitar, and just to be able to walk through the melody of a tune, that's success. Great. There's 31 songs written out that way. Okay. Now, others amongst you might say, okay, well, that's nice, that's great, but I want to sing. I want to play and sing, or I'm going to play and sing, going to go Christmas caroling, going to do this in church, or you're going to make a beautiful memory sitting around the fire, and you're going to play and sing with family members. And so then what we have is the strumming for Silent Night. Okay, in the same key, which still happens to be the key of G. We're in the key of G. So we're in the same key as what I just played. Okay, we have the chords, happens to be only 3 chords, G, D, and C, and the strum pattern. It happens to be similar to that boom chick, by the way, except because the song is in waltz time, 3/4 time, it's boom chick, chick like this. Okay, for the record, I'm grabbing a G chord with my middle ring and pinky. I love fingering G with my middle ring and pinky, no index finger. I'm hitting the 6th string and then 2 light strums on the 3 or 4 treble strings. So bear with me. I'm going to sing the melody as I play, just so you guys see how this integrates. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Okay, so that's section 2. Before I go on to section 3, like I said earlier, the strumming I did meshes perfectly with the melody that I did 2 minutes ago. So guess what? You guys can play this with another human being. One person doing what I just did, the other person playing a nice simple melody. Now you've got a duet going. Okay. Lastly, so that's with the strumming thing. That's what I just did right there. I know it's tricky to see, I know, but there's the boom, chick, chick, boom, chick, chick. Only 3 chords, G, C, and D. Okay. And last but not least, the chord melody. So when would you want to do the chord melody version? Well, if you were looking for a little bit of a challenge, professionally, say you got a little gig playing some background music, right? And you're going to, instead of singing, you're going to play the melody even amidst the chords, Okay, see why it's called chord melody? There's no doubt you were hearing the melody of Silent Night right there, but the melody was being supported with those chord sounds. I'm not the only one who feels that's the ultimate achievement of as a guitar player. Our chord melody, it's such a beautiful sound. It's everything. It's the whole sound. You don't need anybody else. It's everything. So yeah, 31 of those. And I'll be honest with you, they're all pretty much equally easy. I chose songs that are kind of straightforward, use chords that we all know and love, C, A minor. There's nothing super hard in this book. There's a few quirky things like, oh, you have to do this chord higher up the neck than you might be comfortable with. Okay, no big deal. Imagine taking a D chord, but moving it up the neck so you're in a new spot. No big deal. But the chord melodies sometimes ask you to do that type of playing. No big deal. It's all the tab is there, and so that's what there's the chord melody version. Okay, so you're saying, Jonathan, enough. I can't live without the chord. We can't live without the Complete Christmas Songbook. How do I get it? Okay, here it comes. And okay, head on over to song-bike.com. It's an ebook. You buy it, it gets delivered bang to your inbox. Make sure you spell your email address correctly. Every once in a while someone says to me, I ordered it, it never came. It's not in my spam folder, it never came. Well, computers don't make mistakes. So just triple check your email address and make sure you put in the right email address so it gets delivered to your email inbox, because it'll come instantly. But an extra bonus, the Blues Guide. The Blues Guide is a very cool, I'm just so happy with how this came out. I just finished it. What's today? Today's Saturday. I finished it on Tuesday because I want to have it ready for this week, you know. The Blues Guide is about a dozen pages, but I kind of crammed stuff in there. It's just a bunch of good bluesy stuff. And I'll give you a demonstration in a second. What the Blues Guide is a bunch of small, awesome, practical, bluesy things that you really can't live without if you enjoy playing blues guitar. None of it is particularly hard, but it sounds so good, you know? So a typical page would show, let me see if I can pull this up. I know I can't share it for you guys, but I want to make sure I describe it perfectly. There we go. A typical page, for instance, would show you, say, an E blues scale, right? And then, hold on here, then a bunch of cool, famous songs that are you know, that have a rhythm guitar riff, for example, that's based on the E blues scale, you know? And I chose songs that are either based on one single riff, or at a minimum, once you have that riff, you have the heart of the song right there, you know? So what's a good example? Okay, so let's talk about the Smokestack Lightning riff. Why not? And again, when you buy the Christmas book, this Blues Guide is free. It's free for you. It gets delivered right then into your email inbox. Oh, there's a coupon code. Huh, how could I not tell you about this? Small Business Saturday. Okay, don't go anywhere. Okay, before you buy anything, here's a coupon code. Happy Small Business Saturday, everybody. Okay, in the chat, I just put in the coupon code SBS10. That's Sierra Bravo Sierra 10. SBS10 saves you 10% off any of the ebooks and books on my website. Happy Small Business Saturday, everybody. And trust me, I am a small business. Okay, so again, here's an example of what's in the Blues Guide. Starts off with an E blues scale. That's one octave, second octave. There's a second octave. One more note for good measure. And then we work back down. And then, okay. Then, I want to play this accurately. I'm looking at my own book right now online. And then I say, okay, so you got your E blues, you practice your E blues scale, you got, okay, what do you do next? Okay, then you learn the Smokestack Lightning riff from Howlin' Wolf. Why? Because it's based on the E blues scale. It sounds amazing, you know? Open fat string, open skinny string, second string, third fret. So far we have. Okay, now here's where it gets especially good. 4 on the G string, 4 on the third string. Got to be your middle finger. Keep that finger down. 3 on the second string with your index. Back to 4 on the third string with your middle finger. I just did 4, 3, 4. I'm going to glide my middle finger backwards, third string, second fret. I know I'm going fast. I know. Bear with me. Hold on. Third string, second fret, middle finger. Same string open. Fourth string, second fret. I'm going to put all this in the timestamp of this video. Okay, and I'm going to walk you through it again slowly. But my point is, this is what you get in the Blues Guide. You know, this is one example. Take a scale, and then, okay, now that I practice my scale, it sounds great. What do I do with it? Then we talk about it like a real life example. Okay. To make it sound special, you don't just play that 4 on the third string, fourth fret. You slide up to it from 1, 2 frets away. And then you slide down from 4 to 2 on the 3rd string. I mean, there's a lot of room in here for little hammer-ons and pull-offs and, you know. So imagine a bunch of pages of stuff like that. Here's a scale. Here's a riff that goes with that scale. And I chose the most famous tunes I could think of, you know. And then there's other stuff in here. I don't know. Somehow the whole thing is 14 pages, including little introduction and stuff. But somehow there's a lot of cool stuff. If I say so myself, a bunch of cool turnarounds. I mean, you gotta learn the right. There's a bunch of cool turnarounds like that. Your basic blues shuffles, which I hope you guys already know. Okay, there's a few of those in different keys. All right, so you get the idea. The blues guide. Some people have already asked me, can you buy it separately from the Christmas book? And eventually I will make it available apart from the Christmas book. Right now, it's just like a nice little holiday thing where, hey, I would love to have this Christmas book find its way into your home. And maybe this would be the deciding factor. You say, oh, I got to get that blues guide. But yes, I do intend to make it available as an independent thing in the near future. Yeah. Anyways, I'm so happy with how it came out. It's short and sweet and a bunch of good stuff. So that's what's up with the blues guide. Okay. So my friends, thank you for hearing me out. Scott Rhodes, thank you for your super chat. And Bob Human, thank you for your super chat. Bob says, thank you forever. The blues guide is terrific. Thanks, Bob. He's got that already. Awesome. I appreciate that, Bob. Okay, so thank you, everybody. And I am just looking down here to see if I missed anything. Scott, I see your question, and I think I'm going to grab that in a second here. Okay. Yeah, Scott, I enjoy this question very much. Scott says that he just finished John Fogerty's book. John Fogerty, of course, from Creedence Clearwater Revival. Do you and all of us, he asks, do we all have any favorite musician biographies? He likes to get a little bit more about the musician's personality and background on the music. Yeah, I mean, I've read a bunch of books. In fact, I got to the point where I realized I wasn't reading anything else besides, music related stuff. I thought I really, I have this fantasy about being well-rounded. That's not going too well. A boy can dream. So I'd be curious about what any of you guys say about any specific biographies that you've read or autobiographies that you read. I've read a bunch of Bob Dylan books over the years, and I always find those interesting. Oh, well, one thing I loved, when did I read this? Over the summer, a book, interviews with musicians who have toured with Bob Dylan. And that was fun, not only from a Bob Dylan point of view, but just it's fun hearing about, working musicians, seeing things from their point of view and the challenges that they face and the highs and the lows. And you're going to ask me what the name of that book was. And I have to think about it. I know where to look. But anyways, another one that I enjoyed was Keith Richards' autobiography from quite a few years ago now. But that was fun. Not exactly what I expected. Pledging My Time. Pledging My Time is the name of the Bob Dylan book. And can I copy this right here? Copy. Nope, of course not. Pledging My Time. I'm going to put that in the chat. Keith Richards' book, was it just called Life, I think? And that was interesting. One of my takeaways from the Keith Richards autobiography was, if I remember right, At one point or another, each member of the Rolling Stones has separately punched Mick Jagger in the face. And my other takeaway from the book was that Keith Richards really, really loves making music. I mean, that's really all he wants to do. And whether live or in the recording studio, and that really comes across loud and clear in the book. And that I just struck by that. Okay, so I'm putting that Bob Dylan book in the chat. It's called Pledging My Time by Ray Padgett. And it came out, I don't know, less than a year ago. And let me just make sure I'm spelling it right. I think so, yeah. But yeah, I'm curious to see whatever you guys have read that has struck you. I'm a book guy. When I have the time, I am. And yeah, when I was a kid, I was a liner notes kind of kid. You sit there, you're listening to the album, right? But you're reading the liner notes and just poring over the liner notes for any information they might give you. Charlie Beagle says I read anything I can about Neil Young. Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting how some performers seem to inspire more writing than others, and that's I'm curious about that. That's everyone's interesting. Everyone has a story, but some people just don't. There's just not that much out there about that person. Who knows why, right? Now, before I know we got about 20 minutes left here. Let me see. Some other things I wanted to mention to you guys during today's live stream is this is a general topic, and I'm going to throw this out there. Well, when I say it's a general topic, this is a big topic, but it's a fair question. Are there any shortcuts to getting good at the guitar? And conventional answer is nope. You got to pay your dues, right? And I don't find that a very satisfying answer. So if I were really pressed, what are the shortcuts to getting good at the guitar? Depends how you define shortcut, right? Are there ways you can spend your time that are more valuable than others that will get you where you want to go faster? That's another way of putting it. So let's talk about that just for a minute. Playing every day, I don't see any way around that. If your goal is to be significantly better, say 1 year down the road, I think that's non-negotiable. So right there, some of you, I mean, you may travel for business, right? You may have a job or a home life that just not not going to happen. I get it. But playing every day, in a way, that's a shortcut. It's essential, Making sure you're constantly challenged. Some of you may say, "Oh, believe me, I'm constantly challenged," and maybe you are. That's great. I'm talking about the stuff that you already can do. Moving on past that, finding new challenges that are relevant. That's something that teacher can help you with. Is taking weekly lessons, is that a shortcut to getting good? Sitting in a room with some professional, quote, is that a shortcut? I think so. I hate to spend your money for you, but yeah, it has to be the right person, but there's a lot of right people out there. That has to save time. It has to help you become significantly better. But getting back to my other point, the stuff you can already do, even though it gives you satisfaction, you're proud of your accomplishment, you have to move past that. There's only so many hours in the day. You can't play the stuff you're good at too much, right? It seems to me like your progress is so directly related to your fretting hand. that anything that you want to describe as a shortcut or it's all about getting your left hand smarter. Notice I didn't say stronger, because it's not brute strength exactly. And I don't want you to think of it as getting your left hand stronger. Yeah, there's a little bit of that, but that's not, many of you are adults, and you've got muscles. Yeah, we're going to fine tune some of the less used muscles. I really want you to think about getting your left hand smarter, more coordinated, more sensitive. So anything and everything that you do that's directly related to your left hand, where you're giving your left hand, assuming that you're righty, you're giving your left hand 99% of your attention. That I would call that a shortcut, or I would call that a integral part in your significant progress. If you're saying, okay, next Thanksgiving, I want to be a significantly better guitar player. So the example I'm going to give, or actually I'm going to use that scale that I talked about for playing along with Jambalaya, the C major pentatonic bass at the 5th fret, 5, 8, 5, 7, and so on. Practicing a scale slowly, keeping your eyes right on that left hand, making sure you're on the tip of each finger, always using the same fingers. Don't use your ring finger sometimes on a note, but then next time you play that same note, use your pinky finger. Being, hyper focused on every movement of your left hand, having those short fingernails, making sure you're on the extreme tip of your finger. Don't just flop down the pinky and play with the flesh, of the pinky, the squishy part, I call it. The more attention you pay to your left hand, whether it's a relatively easy thing or something that's harder, scales, arpeggios, these things that involve movement. I'm not talking about getting good at an F chord, although yes, that's significant. I'm talking about things that require movement, constant movement, like scales and arpeggios. To me, that's crucial to making significant progress. And going slowly. I'll leave you with this thought. Practicing slowly is the shortcut. It is how you get better faster. I can't emphasize that enough. And scales are a great opportunity to practice really slowly. Playing out your favorite, banging out your favorite song with all the chord changes, it's tricky to play that slowly because you know how the song goes, right? Look at me. I started playing Jambalaya, and even though I intended to play it slower, I in the heat of the moment, I jumped in and started doing it faster, right? So practicing slowly, it means everything. Yeah, so those are some of my thoughts. Are there shortcuts to getting good? That's sort of the rhetorical or not so rhetorical question. And those are some of my thoughts. Memorizing stuff is huge. I see some of you guys putting some interesting things in the chat. Yeah, JB is saying, don't be a noodler. Yeah, don't be a noodler. A to Z me is bringing up muscle memory. Yeah. So those are some of my thoughts, though, because it's not very helpful for someone to say, just practice more. It's language that goes in one ear and out the other, Sure, we all should practice more. We all should, if we want to be significantly better, in the long term. Okay, some of my thoughts to be continued. Let's see, who else do we have here? Charlie Beagle is making a good point. He mentions mastering chord changes with your most used chord progressions, like the 1-4-5 with C, F, G, D. Yeah, C, F, and G, and A, D, and E. Charlie, since you're setting me up like this, I'm going to reach back here in my ebook called The Guitar Year One. I'm going to hold this up. I'm going to save you guys, the money from the book. See that page right there? Common chord progressions, right? if you're going to practice chords, and you are, you might as well practice them in a context, right? Practice specifically E minor going to A minor, practice, I'm looking at A major to D major to E7, right? Practice them in a way, not only because that's how you're going to see them in the real world, although that's pretty darn significant, but certain fingers may remain in the same place for 2 chords in a row. And it's super significant to be aware of that as early as possible, or maybe one finger to get from D chord, D major to E major. My index finger is going to just quietly slide from the 3rd string 2nd fret to the 3rd string 1st fret. Little things like that. You begin to notice them, or at least you should, when you're practicing chords that go together, So, yeah, Charlie Beagle, your point is well taken. Okay, Chaz, I think, Chaz is saying, last week you mentioned playing a song along with a soundtrack as being a key in learning. I did that all week, and it has helped immensely. Awesome. But Kay, could you be more specific? Expand on that a little bit, because I think you're talking about playing with a backing track. You mean a backing track? Yeah. Excellent. So that's what you mean. Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure that's what you mean. Awesome. Yeah. I still have a plan to take a significant portion of our future live stream and really get into backing tracks with you guys. Yeah. Thanks, Chaz. I get it. So some of you are way ahead of me, and you backing tracks are already part of your practicing, especially if you're just practicing soloing. I mean, I don't mean just practicing soloing, but that's what you use backing tracks for. So helpful. I had a very cool book. I think the one I'm thinking of right now is called Art of the Shuffle by Dave Rubin. I love that book so much. And I was working on all this rhythm guitar stuff in that book, and it came with a CD. Listen to the CD, play along, get your rhythm guitar chops together. And pretty quickly it occurred to me, wait a minute, I could use those rhythm guitar examples on the CD, and I could play on top of that. Oh my gosh, I was doing that before there was such a thing as YouTube. I think it was the late 90s, right? The late 90s. And that worked great, Okay. Let me think. Is there anything else I have? Hey, a while back, I mentioned to some folks that I'm doing a little publicity and marketing involving the Christmas Songbook. If any of you all have that already, first of all, I thank you. I'm looking for those cute little blurbs that say cute little positive things about specifically the Christmas Songbook. So if you are so inclined, you could be a book reviewer and just send me your book review. And I'm going to put the address. This is info@song-bike.com. Okay, here's your chance to be a book reviewer, and you just might see your name in print, so to speak. So yeah, if you're so inclined, I appreciate that. Okay, don't forget, earlier, I'm going to do it again. I posted in the chat, I posted the Sweetwater affiliate link. And I know holidays are coming, and some of you may be thinking about buying yourself a little something, or buying a loved one something. And if you're going to buy it from Sweetwater anyways, I'm going to put the affiliate link in the chat. There we go. And again, it doesn't change what you pay. It just means Sweetwater knows that you came from my affiliate link, and they kick back a little of their profits to support what we all do here during a Saturday live stream and everything else. So I thank you in advance. Are you so inclined? Deborah, I see your question. I think I'm going to grab that next. Okay, Deborah, I'm reading your question right now. Deborah says, how do you get back into playing after you stopped playing for many years? How do you stay motivated? What types of things to practice? It's a great question. I feel songs do the heavy lifting. The right song or songs make my job easier as a teacher. And I imagine for students, I mean, I'm assuming that that's what motivates you as well. So the number one thing is, what do you want to sound like? What do you want to play? Doesn't mean we can't supplement that. Like if you and I were doing one-on-one lessons with exercise stuff to get your hands back in shape, or maybe not just about your fretting hand getting into shape, but getting your right hand, comfortable using a pick again, finding the strings, bare finger picking, repetitive patterns for your finger picking. If you're so inclined to do finger picking, get you going with some repetitive pattern exercises. But the songs do the heavy lifting. So the sooner you make a list, and the list can be as long as you want, but easily, 10 or 20 songs, don't be shy. Trust your instinct. If your instinct is, geez, that song just does not sound that hard, you're probably right. Rarely do I have an adult student, who says to me, I really want to learn this song, and I'm 100% convinced it's too hard. Or put it this way, it's really common for me to hear from an adult student, hey, can we play this song, during our lesson? I think I can do that, So trust your instinct is what I'm saying. And then the fun begins. The question is, what skills do you need for that song or for that list of songs? And I always break skills down as what chords do you need and what picking patterns you need, either picking with a typical flat pick or bare fingers or both, because you can have I encourage you to have a variety of songs on that list. And then you begin tackling, okay, ideally working with a teacher. The teacher looks at the list. I do this all the time. You look at the list and I say, okay, that song, number one, I try to pick a song that I've heard before, because that streamlines the process. I've done this for enough years that I got a bunch of songs in my head. And I use my instinct, like, what, that does sound like a 3-chord song with some basic strumming. So, you work with a teacher ideally, and the teacher helps you narrow down that list and say, okay, let's 1, 2, 3, let's work on those 3 songs. You may have to get a capo. You might already have it. If you already have one, great. If you don't have a capo, then head over to that Sweetwater link and get yourself a capo. And here's why. Especially if you have a nice long list of 10 or 20 tunes, they're going to be in different keys. And some of them may be in weird keys that are not conducive. They're not friendly, not guitar friendly. It could just be, though, that the person playing the song, they're using a capo too. So don't be surprised if you need to get a capo. So that's how I would structure your practice time. Let's find the right song or songs and identify the exact skills that you don't have, or that you need, or that you have to polish for those songs. Something you have to brush the dust off or something, for those songs. But then set up some exercises, especially, well, really for both hands. I equate this with an athlete going to the gym. Pick any sport. When you see the athlete at the gym, you may have no idea what sport they play, because the stuff they're doing in the gym it seems generic, right? It seems like some person skipping rope or lifting weights or running on a treadmill or whatever. So you should think of yourself as an athlete, all of us, right? So there are going to be certain things you do that might not sound like chicken picking, might not sound like blues guitar, might not sound like whatever, and just accept that, yeah, you're the athlete in the gym doing those things. And don't worry, just like those athletes, they know that, my son is a college swimmer. Hey, son. Hello to my family watching. And he's in the gym. He has to be. It's part of being a college athlete. You have to be in the gym doing specific stuff. It's not negotiable. It's not optional, right? So think of yourself as an athlete. In fact, there's so many parallels between playing a musical instrument and sports. For instance, just like sports, music happens in real time, right? That chord change is coming right at you. You better be ready. Someone just hit the ball right at your face, right? You know what I'm talking about, beginner guitar player? Get that ball in front of your face. I get the glove in front of your face, right? It's coming at you. That F chord is coming, and it's coming in 3 more beats. And here it comes, F chord. You know, in like sports, it's not good enough to understand it. It's not good enough to be able to execute it slowly. When it comes down to it, yeah, it happens in real time. Okay, so it's an excellent question, Deborah. Hey, here's some more thoughts. Socially, try to find people in your life who do play. I mean, friends, neighbors, family members, church, any social situation, because it's just good to be around people who are doing it, who are either right in there with you at your level, or people who are more experienced, and you know. That's from a social point of view, it's so helpful and inspiring. Of course, it has to be the right person who have the right attitude. Believe me, I've heard stories about students of mine who connect with another guitar player, but it's not the right fit. The person is not helpful. You know, they're available, but they're not a positive influence, and that's unfortunate. So, anyways, that's another thing that comes to mind, Deborah, is having those people. I mean, that'll keep you motivated if you know, that person, especially the right person, they want to play with you. I'll give you a quick example. Just being able to play a couple chords back and forth, you know, just like 4 strums, like Jambalaya, right? And then 4 more strums on another chord. If someone can just execute that smooth and steady, well, then the other person can work on their lead guitar playing and do all sorts of cool stuff on top of those chords. Do not underestimate the value of simple strumming, as long as you're making the chord changes in time. It's great. It's just it's more valuable than you might realize. Even though on paper it just looks like I just did 4 C's and 4 G7s. Yeah, but you know, it's powerful stuff. Okay, so Deborah, I hope some of that is helpful to you. Deborah says she does have some guitar friends. Excellent, excellent. Okay, you guys, it's about that time. I think I covered a bunch of your questions. I will be reaching out to my local internet provider this week to see if there's something that I could be doing differently on my end, other than paying their bill every month. And I've got my computer directly plugged into the modem router thing. I don't know. But thank you for bearing with me. I know we got off to a little bit of a rough start today, but I will be reaching out to them this week and seeing what I can do so it never happens again. I don't want to ever lose the live stream like it's happened. So parting words. Please feel free to get yourself a copy of that Complete Christmas Songbook ebook with the blues guide included. Probably next live stream, I'll give you some more examples of stuff in that blues guide, but I think you really like it. It was so fun for me to write. The first, I hope, of many blues things that I put out there in the universe. So thank you for being here for the 25th, number 25, 25th guitar Q&A live stream. I plan on seeing you guys next Saturday, same as usual. We're into December, right? Next Saturday, December 2nd already. Christmas is coming. The goose is getting fat. I think I covered my agenda right here. Yes. All right, you guys. So on that happy note, I say a few good nights here to Stephen, Deborah, Charlie, Cecile. I want to say good night to, who else is here? Joseph, good night. And I know there's a bunch of you out there who I don't see your names in the chat, but I know you're out there, and I appreciate you. I appreciate all you guys being here. I really enjoy myself doing these live streams. I hope it shows. And I want to thank you folks who made Super Chat donations. That helps cover the cost of lots of stuff. We'll see if Comcast tells me that the way to solve my problems is simply paying for a more expensive internet service. I would not be shocked at all if more money fixes the problem. It's the world we live in. We'll see. All right, you guys. On that note, I'm going to say good night to you all. Thank you for being here. Be safe. Play your guitar. I hope you have some quiet time tomorrow. It's Sunday here in Connecticut, tomorrow is Sunday. And I hope you have a little quiet time yourself. Hope you play some guitar. Get those questions ready for next Saturday. If I missed any questions this week, it was not intentional. So feel free to ask them again next Saturday. And I will do a different sing-along. Got to think of another song for next Saturday. As you guys can tell, I like to keep these sing-along, play-along songs simple. 2 chords, 3 chords, repetitive. And there's more out there. I'll find some more. All right, you guys. Take care. Thank you for being here. I will see you next week. Bye now.